On a freezing night in February 1959, 9 experienced hikers suddenly escaped from their tent into a deadly snowstorm. They left behind their warm clothes, their boots, their equipment, and everything they needed to survive. Why would 9 experienced mountaineers do something that seemed almost impossible to explain? For more than 60 years, the answer remained one of the most disturbing mysteries of the 20th century. The story began in January 1959, when a group of young Soviet hikers prepared for an ambitious expedition across the northern Ural Mountains. Their leader was 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, an experienced student and passionate skier. The group consisted mostly of university students, young people who were accustomed to difficult mountain trips. Their goal was Mount Ototen, deep in a remote and harsh region of the Urals. They were attempting a route considered extremely difficult for the time, but before the expedition reached the mountains, one member became too ill to continue. The remaining 9 continued without him. Their diaries and photographs would later provide investigators with a remarkable record of their final days. The photographs show ordinary moments, smiling faces, meals, jokes, and preparations for the journey. Nothing in those pictures suggested that they were about to become the center of a decades-long mystery. On February 1st, the group climbed onto the slope of a mountain, later known as Kholat Syakhl. The name Kholat Syakhl comes from the Mansi language and is commonly translated as Dead Mountain. That evening, they made a difficult decision. Instead of descending into the forest, they pitched their tent directly on the mountain slope. They cut into the snow to create a flat area for their shelter. Then darkness fell. At some point during the night, something caused the group to leave the tent. And this is where the mystery begins. The tent was found damaged, and investigators discovered something extraordinary. The fabric had been cut from the inside. The hikers had apparently escaped through the opening rather than using the entrance. Outside, investigators found tracks leading away from the tent. And the most disturbing detail was that some of the hikers were poorly dressed for the extreme cold. Whatever had happened, they believed they had to get away immediately. Days passed, and the group did not return. Eventually, a search operation was launched. On February 26th, searchers finally discovered the abandoned tent. Inside were personal belongings, food, clothing, and equipment. But the people themselves were gone. Searchers followed the tracks down toward the forest. They eventually discovered several bodies near the edge of the trees. Some had died from hypothermia, but several victims had severe traumatic injuries. Some of the injuries were difficult to understand, and several victims were found in or near a small ravine. The combination of injuries, darkness, freezing temperatures, and the abandoned tent created an almost impossible puzzle. Over the decades, theories multiplied. Some believed the hikers were attacked. Others suggested secret military activity, strange lights, or even something supernatural. But none of these theories could be proven. Then, decades later, scientists returned to the mountain with a different idea. In 2021, researchers published a study showing how a delayed slab avalanche could potentially have occurred above the tent. Their models suggested that the hikers cut into the slope, combined with wind-driven snow accumulation, could have weakened the snowpack. the avalanche would not necessarily have buried the entire group. Instead, it may have injured some of them and convinced the group that another collapse was imminent. They may have fled toward the forest, believing the tent was no longer safe.